And also with you.
Let us pray. Come, Holy Spirit, fill our hearts with your love, enkindle our minds, so that you will draw near to us and that you will speak to our hearts as we study your word. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 All right, today we'll look at chapter 25. Um, who would like to read? It's 34 verses. All right, Pam will read, and I guess Pam, you could read verse 1 to 17, and we'll have one of the Mazas to do the other 17.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. So from
Abra-
1 to 17, Pam.
Abraham had taken another wife whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. The descendants of Dedan were the Asherites, and the Letushites and the Lemites. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abidah, and Eldah. All these were descendants of Keturah. Abraham left everything he owned to Isaac, but while he was still living, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them away from his son Isaac to the land of the east. Abraham lived 175 years. Then Abraham breathed his last and died at a good old age, an old man and full of years, and he was gathered to his people. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre in the field of Ephron, son of Zorah the Hittite, the field Abraham had bought from the Hittites. There, Abraham was buried with his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who then lived near Beer Lahai Roi. This is the account of the family line of Abraham's son Ishmael, whom Sarah's slave Hagar the Egyptian bore to Abraham. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael, listed in the order of their birth. Nebahiah, the firstborn of Ishmael, Kedar, Abdeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jeter, Nephish, and Kedemah. These were the sons of Ishmael, and they are the names of the 12 tribal rulers according to their settlements and camps. Ishmael lived to 137 years. He breathed his last and died, and he was gathered to his people.
The Ishmaelites ranged from Havilah by Shur, which is on the border of Egypt, all the way to Asher, and each of them pitched camp in opposition to his various kinsmen. This is the family history of Isaac, son of Abraham. Abraham had begotten Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padam Aram, and the sister of Laban, the Aramean. Isaac entreated the Lord on behalf of his wife, since she was sterile. The Lord heard his entreaty, and Rebekah became pregnant. But the children in her womb jostled each other so much that she exclaimed, "If this is to be so, what good will it do me?" She went to consult the Lord, and he answered her, "Two nations are in your womb. Two peoples are quarreling while still within you, but one shall surpass the other, and the older shall serve the younger." When the time of her delivery came, there were twins in her womb. The first to emerge was reddish, and his whole body was like a hairy mantle, so they named him Esau. His brother came out next, gripping Esau's heel, so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when they were born. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter, a man who lived in the open, whereas Jacob was a simple man who kept to his tents. Isaac preferred Esau because he was fond of game, but Rebekah preferred Jacob. Once, when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the open, famished. He said to Jacob, "Let me gulp down some of that red stuff. I'm starving." That is why he was called Edom. But Jacob replied, "First give me your birthright in exchange for it." Look, said Esau, "I'm on the point of dying. What good will my birthright do for me?" But Jacob insisted, "Swear to me first." So he sold Jacob his birthright under oath. Jacob then gave him some bread and the lentil stew, and Esau ate, drank, got up, and went his way. Esau cared little for his birthright.
Thank you both. So you'll realize can you hear me?
Yes.
Ah, good. Because I've started back where these and I was like, because at one time they were stopped not working. So I said, let me try them out again. So I'm glad.
Okay.
Um, we have moved from Abraham. Now we're with Isaac, and we're getting closer to Jacob as you were moving towards Jacob, the three forefathers. Now, in the beginning, where you see in beginning of chapter 25, what we have here is Abraham, and we're not sure if let me ask you all a question here. What word is used in verse 6 for you all? I didn't what was used for you, Pam? But while he was still
Concubine.
living, concubine. Did yours say concubine too, George?
Yes, it
Thank you,
does.
Marilyn. Yeah, because it says that he took another wife, as in Keturah, which is possible, but it is also quite possible that she might be a concubine, because I think we are not sure. Sometimes it seems that she's referred to as a concubine, and then in this section she's referred to as a wife. He could have taken a wife since Sarah had already died, and he could have, but there's also still that possibility, because I think somewhere in First Chronicles she is listed as a concubine and not his wife. So, but the fact remains is that Abraham has more children. In fact, this woman was the most prolific. He got six sons from her.
Six sons, not
Yeah,
six
six
children.
sons, not six children, but six sons. Although it does say, it does mention these names and they're all boys. It could be six, but most of this time they usually only mention the male, and you will find that I think, is she the one? There was someone. It might have been her who had a couple of daughters somewhere else. I think she does actually. If we look at, let me see, but it is six sons that she has. I think she has a daughter. It's mentioned somewhere in chapter 28. Let me see if I'm correct. I think a daughter is mentioned. No, not her. It was
Not
Ishmael.
her.
It's Ishmael. It's Ishmael, where you will find that they list 12 sons for him, but he also had at least a daughter or two, which is mentioned in chapter 28 of Genesis. But we haven't gotten there yet. So you see out of this now that Abraham has had now 8 sons. He has 6 from Keturah, 1 from Sarah, and 1 from Hagar. So he has now 6 sons. And in the few verses, and I applaud you, Pam, very well read with all those names. Very well, excellent. Um, you will find that there were mentioned, I think, 2 grandsons and 3 great grandsons in a mix of it and so forth. However, um, um, you will find that in verse 5, Abraham left everything he owed to Isaac because Isaac is the main son. He's the one who's after the promised seed. Now, you will find, however, that he does give the sons of his concubines, it mentions, he gave them gifts and sent them away from Isaac. So obviously, Isaac, as I said, is the main son, and he is the promised seed. He's actually, for lack of a better phraseology, he's the one that God ordained versus the others, who in biblical terms will be seen more as the ones that were humanly ordained. But Isaac is the one that is God's chosen, and so he is the one who gets everything. And it must be a strange feeling being a son and you're still not getting as much as you think you would be due, whereas Isaac gets it, virtually gets it all. Um, um, and then you find now as we move on, we get now to the death of Abraham. Although there is some um, contention in terms of scholars whether this part about Abraham dying should have come at this point. If there's some part of the sequence that is out of sync, as opposed to after coming. Let me see, coming after, I think, the feeling that it should have probably come after verse 28. So instead of where they have Abraham dying at verse 7, there are many who think it should have come after verse 28. So there's belief that verses 20 to 28 should have come before there. So, but that's just that's more of a scholarly and more so of how it should have flowed, the history of Abraham. And when you read it, when you look at it, it looks that way because you're still seeing the mention of Abraham's sons, Ishmael, and also Abraham's son Isaac, and and as I said, they believe that it should come after verse 28. Be that as it may, you will see here that when Abraham dies, it tells you that he lived 175 years. That meant that Isaac was 75 years old. It also meant that Ishmael was about 89 years old at the time when Abraham died. And you will see here that it tells you in verse 8 that Abraham breathed his last and died at a good old age, a man full of years, and he was gathered to his people. And what is interesting is that his sons Isaac and Ishmael are both present for the burial, which is good. Now, so one wondered if they were getting along. No, it doesn't necessarily mean they were getting along. It just meant that Isaac could have phoned him and told him, "This is your father have died," and he came home.
Phone him, right?
Well, he got a message to him. That's what I
And
mean.
a camel.
He got a message to him.
He sent the camel, right?
Probably he got a message to him. I tell him, "Listen, your father died. You should really come home for the funeral."
I mean, Ishmael was in Mecca, right? Or was he somewhere else?
Where was he? I'm not sure where he would have been at the time. I mean, it is interesting because in those days they couldn't keep the body very long. There was no funeral homes in those days.
Well, didn't they have
and
didn't
also,
they have rules that
and
said
that's what I was going to say. And they would have had some kind of rule as to how long. In fact, I think with Jews, I don't know what it is now, if it's still the same, but one the night, you had to be buried in the morning the next day, and if you were born in the morning, you were buried by evening or something like
Right.
that.
That's what I thought it
So
was.
yeah, so it is quite, but for some reason the two of them are there, according to this, and and if you realize, and this is again the way how the Bible is written. You see, Isaac name comes before Ishmael, although Ishmael is the elder son. Isaac takes precedence over Ishmael. So you see in verse 9 it says, his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite. So here is now Abraham joins his wife, is buried with his wife Sarah, in the same tomb. And it points out that after he dies, God blesses Isaac, who then lived near Beer Lahai Roi. Um, um, I'm sorry I didn't pull up a map to show you, which is Beer Lahai Roi was south of Beersheba. If you all remember the map in Beersheba, it was really southern part of the country that Isaac lived. Now, when you get wait, I was just going to. Okay, just in case that you were wondering what the terminology, he was gathered to his people, really mean. It really was just a place after the life on earth where all the expectation is that where all the people go at that point in time, he went to where his people were, if you get what I'm saying. The Roman church, the Roman church may call it purgatory, but it is just a place where the dead reside collectively, so to speak. I mean, if you talk about the Hebrews used to call it Sheol. The Greeks used to call it Hades. Um, um, and it is the place when we say it in the Nicene Creed or in the Apostles' Creed that Jesus descended to the dead, after being placed in the tomb. It is that same kind of where you gather to his people. Now, when you come to verse 12, you see now that you hear about Abraham's son Ishmael. His mother was Hagar, the Egyptian who bore Ishmael to Abraham. And you see the names of his sons are mentioned there, listed in the order of their birth, and there are 12 of them. Just as you will realize that Jacob, where Jacob has the 12 tribes, which combines his children both from his wives and his couple of his concubines. You see here Ishmael having these 12 sons who would also become 12 tribal rulers, according to where their settlements and their camps were. And it tells you as well that Ishmael lived 137 years old. One person asked me this morning if people of that time lived around that age. And my response to them was that if you remembered after the flood, God decreased the lifespan to 120. You remember that?
Hmm.
Right. The same way when it was David's time, he decreased it again to 70. And so I was saying to the folks this morning that yes, there would have been some folks who would have lived over 120, some would have lived under 120, just like today. The lifespan is 70, some live under 70, some live way over 70. And it would have been a similar situation back then. So you see, Abraham died at 75. His wife died at 120. She died right on the lifespan. She would be like someone today who dies at 70. and now you see Ishmael lived to 137. So there's that variation in age as well. And he too was gathered to his people, and his descendants settled and it tells us where his descendants settled. So Ishmael also he dies, and as I mentioned, I think he had a daughter or two in chapter 28. Let's see, chapter 28, verse
Does he have a daughter who marries
9, I
Jacob?
think. Huh?
No, he has a daughter who marries Esau.
Esau, yes.
Yeah.
Esau, he has a daughter. One of Ishmael's daughters married Esau, correct. Correct. And I think you see that in verse 9 of chapter 28. It's there. So at least we know too that he has daughters, at least a daughter as well. And there's a possibility that he may have had two. Now, one of the things too that we can, as I was saying earlier, is that when Abraham died, Isaac was 75, Ishmael was 89, and when we get to the twin sons of Isaac, Esau and Jacob, they would have been about 15 years old at the time when their grandfather died. Now, in verse 19, we come now to Jacob and Esau, and you will find eventually that Jacob's name is mentioned even before Esau's, but we see here Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah. We know that she's the daughter of Bethuel and the sister of Laban, the schemer. And then you will find in verse 21 that Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. And it is interesting that here again we have another patriarch's wife who is barren. Sarah was, and now Rebecca was, and you will find the same thing will happen with Jacob and Rachel, and Leah was fine, but Rachel wasn't. So you see that happening here, but eventually she becomes pregnant, but it looks like it will take about 20 years because by the time of Esau and Jacob's birth, he was already 60, as you will see in verse 26. It tells you that Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. Now, one of the things that we see coming out here is that she got pregnant, and in verse 22, the babies jostled each other within her, and there was such a struggle between the two boys in the womb. They tell me that twins are usually like each other, but these two did not like each other at all, and it was happening in the womb. There was such a struggle between the two of them that she even cried out to the Lord and asked, "Why is this happening to me?" And you will see that the Lord responded to her, and he tells her 4 things. He says, 1, there are 2 nations in your womb. 2, that these 2 peoples and from within you will be separated. 3, 1 people will be stronger than the other. And 4, the older will serve the younger. So he already sets out to her what she's in for. And one of the things I always question is, especially when it comes to the last one, that the older will serve the younger. I mean, okay, you could probably understand the birthright thing, but the fact that they had to, the mother and the son Jacob had to connive and trick Isaac to get the blessing. I always think, well, why couldn't God have let that happen naturally instead of his wife having to connive? And you will see too, they will have their favorite kids, and it will bring a strain on on their marriage in that regards. So you see here that Rebecca experiences a very difficult pregnancy, and in experiencing that difficult pregnancy, she learned what is going to be happen, what's going to take place between the two sons, and that the younger one is going to be more dominant than the older one, which in those days would have been unusual. But again, we have seen a trace with God in the Old Testament that the younger one sometimes take precedence over the older one. It did not always work out the way you expect. Yes, Marilyn.
You two were both frozen.
Oh, you sure it was us or you?
Well, our screen says yours connection is unstable.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well,
But you can see us. You can see us now. You're moving now,
Yes.
right? So you talk, right? Okay.
okay.
We're sorry. I'm sorry. Uh, um. So here we see Isaac having his kids at 60, as you saw in verse 26. It tells you, well, before I get there, in verse 24, when the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment. So they named him Esau. And after this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel. So he was named Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old, and Rebekah gave birth to them. And as we know that they used to call Esau Edom because of that whole notion of red. He had looked reddish. And the hostility where God told Rebekah about the two nations in her womb, and the two peoples from within you will be separated. The whole hostility was between the hostility of the Israelites, which were Jacob's descendants, and the Edomites, which was Esau's descendants. And there was quite hostility between them when you get into further aspects further in the Bible, in the Old Testament. But all that God told her would come to light. Now, we also learned that the boys grew up in verse 27. Esau was a skillful hunter, a man that loved the open, liked to be out. Jacob was more a quiet man, preferred to stay at home. And Isaac, who had a taste for the stew that Esau would bring home after killing an animal, and that caused him to love Esau more than he loved Jacob. While on the other hand, Rebekah loved Jacob because he was the one at home. He probably used to help her around the house, the tents, and therefore she loved him more. And then we get into you see that the fact that Isaac preferred Esau because of his hunting skills, while Rebekah favoring the younger son, which was really the son of the promised seed, actually, but by having their favorites, it will eventually bring division over the two sons. And it will lead to discord within the family as well, especially when it came to not the birthright, but the blessing before Isaac dies. That will be a very, very terrible time in the family. So here you see in verse 29, that once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the outside, and he was famished, and he said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." That is why he was called Edom, which is there. And Jacob replied, "First, sell me your birthright." Now we have no idea what caused him to say that, um, or to ask for the birthright. But Jacob asked him, "First, sell me your birthright." Now, if you know any, and if you birthrights, the birthright was really, if my mind serves me correctly, you used to get to double the portion of the other child or children. You, as the one who gets the birthright, you had the majority of the property of whatever property was. So you got a double portion of all the material wealth, and also the spiritual blessing of your father. And this was something that would have been promised to the older son by prophecy. And 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 you see here that Esau did not care much about it, that all Esau is interested in is the present, the now. He doesn't think about the future, and he doesn't think about what he is entitled to and the importance of what he's entitled to. He's willing to just give it away. And he will come to his senses, I believe, in my own opinion, he comes to his senses when he comes to his father to get the blessing, and there's no blessing. In fact, the father tells him straight, there's only a curse I can give to you. There's no blessing I can give to you. And so, and we will come to that later. But here you see also what is interesting to note as well is that food comes into play, again, and it becomes food becomes a failure for the people who were supposed to be important people to God. For example, and it started from the very beginning. What caused sin in the world? It was food. It was eating from the tree of the tree of life, of good and evil. It was food that brought sin into the world. And then you will find again, and when I say food, it could also include drink. You see again Noah and Lot. They drank themselves into a drunken stupor, and then you find that Noah was disgraced over when so much so that his children had to come in. Two of his children had to come in and cover his body because he was naked from his drunkenness. So you see, food again brings about failure, and then you see Isaac now. He too, well, not Isaac yet, but Jacob, Esau. He too will sell his birthright over food. And here is it that, again, he will, food is what is more, it gets him into this position where he fails again in keeping what is his. And you will see it later on again when Isaac is dying, that he wanted the Esau's games too again, and so that he can give the son the blessing. And again, he then is also tricked by his wife and his son, his younger son. And again, you see food is involved in that as well. So it is no doubt that gluttony, I think, is one of the 7 deadly sins because all these folks, there is a sense of depravity when it comes to what they own and to what they should have, or to who they should be. And here you see food got into the way of them being who God intended them to be. Um, so, um, so here is it then that Jacob replied, first, sell me your birthright. And you see in verse 32, Esau said, look, I am about to die. What good is the birthright to me? And here you're giving up the double portion of the material wealth that you're entitled to, the blessing, all this sort of stuff. And he just gave it up. Um, um, like that. So Jacob said, swear to me first. So he swore on oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. And you could say, when you really think about this, these are twin boys, they're brothers, and one is hungry, and the other one takes it upon himself to show a lack of compassion, a lack of hospitality to his brother, and to use his brother's weakness to trick him into doing into renouncing his birthright, and you know that kind of thing, the scheming part of it, um, as I know, it throws a lot of people off the same way it throws me off, because I don't see. Um, Sometimes I think it could have been done in a different way than to be portrayed in that kind of manner, because it's not really portrayed in a well, what we would call now a Christian manner. But Esau sold his birthright. Jacob gave him some bread and some Lenten stew. He ate and drank and then got up and left. And he despised his birthright. And so you see again, as I mentioned, um, um, Esau is very much about the present, doesn't think about what is going to happen in the future, or what is going to be done to him in the future. He's hungry, he wants something, and he's willing to give away whatever he has so as to get it. Gets up and he goes, and you know what he will do with that eventually. What will come out of his body, and then he has no birthright, and he still has no, and 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 that's that's the end of that. One of the things um, I was going to say something here that I had. Let me see if I have it. Oh. The only thing that is left for Esau now is to get the father's blessing at the end. And as we know, how that all turned out as well. He lost that too. And so it is sad for him. I'll read something to you that I came across that St. Augustine wrote, and he was writing about the difference between the brothers as a metaphor for differences between Christians. And he writes, the reason why the elder son is called Esau is that no one becomes spiritual without first having been of the flesh or materialistic. But if they persist in the mind of the flesh, they will always be Esau. If, however, they become spiritual, they will then be the younger son. But then the junior will be the senior. The other takes precedence in time, this one in virtue. Esau sold his right as firstborn to his younger brother. He went off with a temporary satisfaction. The other went off with a permanent honor. So those in the church who are slaves to temporary pleasures and satisfaction eat lentils, lentils that Jacob certainly cooked, but that Jacob did not eat. Now apply this. You have a Christian people, but among this Christian people, it is the ones who belong to Jacob that have the birthright or right of the firstborn. Those, however, who are materialistic in life, materialistic in faith, materialistic in hope, materialistic in love, still belong to the old covenant, not yet to the new. They still share the lot of Esau, not yet in the blessing of Jacob. Yes, Pam?
Huh?
No, you were going to say something.
No.
It is really crazy when you think about, um, you know, what happened. And you see, and what really Esau, you could sum up in a nutshell, basically what Augustine is saying is that, that Esau's choice took the choice of materialism over the spiritual aspect. Uh, and it's even believed that um, the reason why Jacob was chosen over Esau to carry on the promise is that that God knew what Esau's heart was going to be, because God is one who looks on your heart, and he could have already seen that Esau's heart was what it was, and therefore that is how Jacob um, was the one who was chosen for this. Oh, any questions?
When in the Bible does fasting become something
Oh,
that people do? Have we
oh
seen any of
gosh.
that up till this point in Genesis?
No, I don't remember. I don't recall. I can't recall when fasting came into being. Bear in mind, I'm trying to think. I
I
believe
mean,
it would have probably come in Exodus, I'm
does
not sure.
fasting
I may
make
be
any
wrong.
sense up until people have more than they need?
You mean because of all the food that they were eating?
Well, if you don't have enough food, fasting sort of, well, you don't have enough food. But
Hmm.
once you have enough food and you choose not to eat it, it's different than
Yes, that is
starving.
true. That is true. That is true. I don't remember when fasting came into being. I believe it might have been with the Exodus. But I can't. I don't quote me on that one because I don't recall. I do not recall. I'm sure
Okay.
Pam will look it up for us to see if she finds it.
Well, I mean, this just says key occasions for fasting includes repentance or mourning for personal sins in 2 Samuel, national sin in 1 Samuel, or grief in 1 Samuel, seeking guidance or protection in Ezra 8 and Acts 13 and 14, times of distress, Esther 4 and Daniel 6, spiritual focus, draw closer to God, Psalm 69, or resist temptation, Matthew 4. It also says fasting is presented as a voluntary,
There's a
pers-
voluntary.
personal, or corporate act to humble oneself in Leviticus 16.
You see, I really don't think, George, that fasting, at least I know for sure, the church does not see fasting as mandatory. It's not. But it is a good spiritual discipline for um, 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 helping us in uh, in becoming more spiritual or discernment. It can be used to help us in discernment in terms of our spiritual lives, but it is not mandatory. From what I can remember, fasting
That's
was
correct.
is never meant to be a mandatory thing. It's a choice. It's a voluntary thing. Yeah. So you can do it. It can help you in your spiritual life in terms of your discernment of something that you're wrestling with spiritually. Um, but it doesn't have, it is not something that you, like, for example, look at Jesus who fasted in the wilderness. He was discerning his ministry. He was about to begin ministry. And you can say that he was in a sense of discernment in preparation for what he was about to do. Um, and so fasting can be used in cases like those. So to say
Okay.
that, so it was to say that it was something that was ordained by God to be done. I do not believe that is the case. It's a helpful discipline. That's it. So now you don't have to fast anymore, George.
As fasting is quite difficult for me.
So I want to know, is Maza, yours is ZSA, and Ishmael's son was SSA.
SSA, yeah.
Are you of any relation to the SSAs?
I don't think he's Hungarian. Where George's relative is Hungarian.
They could have. It's a long
Well, you
time
never know.
ago.
They could have come over there too.
It's a long time ago, yeah.
It's a long time, and you never know where they ended up.
Yeah, I mean it's
I
interesting.
mean, look. I mean, he's
To me, it says
Hungarian.
it's
He
an
ended up in the
old
States.
name.
Huh?
Yeah, it's an old name, Joel, I think.
Yes. Any other questions? Next week we will have chapter 26 with Isaac and Abimelech.
Well, I
Abimelech,
won't be
sorry.
here. I won't be here
Oh no,
next
you
week.
won't be here. Okay, yeah, that's true. But that's next week. And we'll see if we also can get into 27 as well, which is when Jacob receives Isaac's blessing. And you will see, and you will see that Jacob at the end, he goes back to the old place where Abraham came from, back to Abraham's nephew Laban, and Laban will have a field day with him. You know, it is interesting. He tricks somebody, then somebody tricks him. You see how it goes around?
Yeah.
You see how it goes around?
Right,
He tricked Esau, and Laban is going to trick him.
right.
I mean, you can't make it up.
Was Leah supposed to marry Esau? I think I read that somewhere.
I am not sure about it. I'm not sure about that. I'm not
And
sure.
according to Jewish, the Midrash,
Mm. Oh, is that
Leah
what it said?
was destined to marry Esau.
I know it was really that the eldest should get married before the youngest. That was a customary thing. So
Right,
um, that is why Laban tricked him, because you know I had some friends in Germany as well, where there were three daughters and a son, and the middle daughter was already married. The oldest child was the first three children were girls, and the last one was a boy. And the middle daughter was already married. The last daughter was about to be married, and the first daughter was not married yet. And it was like the parents were really concerned.
right.
Really concerned. But she did eventually got married. But the older daughter, she got married after she was the last of the three daughters, although she was the first. She was the last of the three daughters to get married.
Right.
So, all right. You want to say something, Marilyn? How are you doing though, Marilyn? Didn't I do that at the beginning?
I'm doing well.
You're doing
Thank
well.
you.
You look well. So,
My glasses bother me, but that's to be expected based on where the soreness is. I was going to say that at Leah's bat mitzvah, we heard Exodus 35 and 36 and the beginning of 37 in Hebrew.
oh, nice. Nice. Nice.
And part of it, Pam, was done by Essie. Part of it was done by Michael, Essie's brother, who that Lori danced with at first at her wedding.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
in place of her father who had passed. And then
Uh-huh.
Faith did part of it, and Lee, Michael's son, Lee is Laurie's cousin,
Right.
and
Mhm.
his son Noah did a part of it. And then Laurie and Brian got up, and Laurie did part of it. And then Leah did Exodus 12, 1 through 20.
Uh-huh.
Did they read the whole regulations of the Sabbath and all of that?
No, I don't
What was
think
the
so.
Sabbath regulations? What chapters did you say that it was in
Exodus
Exodus?
35 through I'm assuming 36 stops at 38. I didn't really look.
Oh, they did 35, 36, 37, and 38?
No, 35 and 36, and then the beginning of
Yes.
37.
35
Oh.
is the Sabbath regulation, starts with the Sabbath regulations.
Does
Yeah,
it?
that's it. That has
Okay.
to do with the materials and all of that to do with the tabernacle as well. So
Yeah, it's
yes.
the tabernacle.
So they looked at they looked at the actual major instruments for the temple, like the tabernacle and the ark and the lampstand and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Making sure that you know the importance of those things. And also with incense and burnt offering and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Danielle
The
and
altar.
David also had a part.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's Leah's younger sister and
Yeah.
cousin. And I read the prayer for peace.
Oh, good.
In English.
Nice. In English.
In English. That's good. It wasn't French.
Good, good. Yeah, and I think you mentioned something about Exodus 12, which I know has to do with the Passover.
Leah
Uh,
had Exodus 12, 1 through 20.
yeah, that has to do with the Passover. Nice. Was that your first?
Yes.
It was my first.
Okay.
I've been to Jewish weddings.
Yes.
The whole thing lasted about 3 hours, and it was very animated. A lot of it was like almost singing the.
I was about to
Yeah.
ask you, was it pretty noisy? Yes, because
And it was not. It was. I don't mean this in a bad way. It was not solemn. It was very
yes, I know.
casual.
It was very, very upbeat. I know.
Yes.
Yes, very upbeat, very upbeat. And even the way how they sing is like they're having a whoop. Yeah. That is true. Yeah.
And
Sounds very Jewish.
the rabbi's two sons were running around. And
Mhm.
at one point he was holding him, and another point he had him in a carrier,
Mhm.
even while he was conducting service.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. They're very upbeat with their music. I mean, really charismatic with their music. Very
well,
charismatic.
you call it music, and it was a
Well,
singing,
singing, really, not music, but singing, I mean. Yeah.
but it was definitely a cappella.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well,
All right. Thank you, Pam.
I'm gonna be off.
Y'all go, and as I said to you, Pam, enjoy your vacation, my dear.
I will do my
Have a
best.
blast. Well, no, am I going to see you tomorrow then, or you're not coming?
Do you need me?
Don't bother because you're leaving.
It
You're
would
gonna
help me
leave
out
on the
not to
Friday.
go.
Don't bother. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Okay.
All right, it's fine.
Okay.
But enjoy your vacation. Enjoy your vacation.
Okay. Will do.
All right. You'll come back for a lot of work for Holy Week.
Right. But that's all right.
All right. All right.
All right.
Bye, everyone. Have a good
All
night.
right. Bye-bye.
Good to see you all back, Marilyn and George. Good to see you back. Bye.
Bye.
Pam?